When we think about correcting the distortion for our lens, the software we use is very clever because most of the time it can pick up what lens we've used from the metadata and of course apply the right corrections for it. But sometimes we may be using a lens from a few years ago or one that is not recognized by the software. Well, we have an opportunity to work in a manual way. So with my image opened up in the Develop module, if we go to the lens corrections, we've looked at the profile and the color, but if the profile of the lens isn't automatically picked up by Lightroom, we can go to the manual settings. If I mouse over these, you can see that it shows the grid screen, and that's just a guide for us to get things correct. But of course we could use this as a creative tool. One of the things I'd like to draw your attention to is first of all with the distortion here, if I move the slider to the extreme right position, now I doubt we'd need quite that much movement to straighten up the horizon of an image, but let's just assume on this particular occasion we do. You can see the effect of that. It distorts the image in such a way that we end up with lots of areas where there's no pixels at all. And that's what this little box down here is designed to fix. If I tick the box, you'll see the result instantly. So by ticking that box, what we've effectively done is told Lightroom to crop the image. Now, we can be forgiven for thinking perhaps that if we then untick the box, the image would jump back to its previous state, showing us the white areas left, right, top and bottom, but it doesn't because we've applied a crop. So for demo purposes, I need to visit my crop overlay, and there you can see exactly what's happening. So to be able to continue, what I need to do is just reset my crop. I'll tuck it away and we can come back to these settings. Double click and it'll return to its starting point. So with a mixture of these tools, we've got an enormous amount of control here. As you've just seen, we can control distortion either one way or the other way. We can do that in a different way vertically, and I'll double click each of those horizontally, which is going to be much the same as before, almost like a 3D animation here. And of course we can rotate and scale. Well, there's almost too much, and if that's not enough, we've got aspect as well, and you can see exactly what that does. That could be quite useful at times, particularly with landscapes perhaps. But I'm going to reset all of these, because what we've also got down the bottom is a lens vignetting for the same reason that we have it in the profile. That when we apply some changes, I think sometimes we're going to want to apply a bit of lens vignetting here. There it is to the left, and there it is to the right. And we even have a midpoint too, so we've got ultimate control here on what we apply in the manual distortion section under lens corrections. In the real world, or what I call the practical world, I think the one you're going to need most of all is the transform tool, and you're probably going to need it just a little. So if you want to just move it a little bit to the right, you can see there how we can just straighten up that horizon a little bit, and that's more or less what happens in the profile when we apply the automatic profile. But we do need to make sure we get it nice and straight, but if we don't, then we can fine tune it, and this may be one of those times when it could be useful to put our cursor into that box. Doesn't matter where we put the cursor. Now I can put my mouse down and I can use the up and down arrows. So maybe I can now concentrate a lot more on the grid screen and what it's telling me and ignore the values on the right hand side. Sometimes with a mouse or a graphics tablet like a Wacom tablet I use, dragging sliders can be not as accurate as we'd really like, and when I have those situations, that's when I turn to that little tip. Put my cursor in the box and I apply the change. Of course, if you know what distortion value you want because you're using the same lens all of the time, then of course it's going to be easy to overtype that value, because we can just type +3, +4, +5, whatever value you want.